I'm Michael Traeger. I'm from Cummins, South Australia. We're located in the central of Lower Eyre Peninsula. Connects in well with all the surrounding districts. We're a bit more focused along the farming and agricultural side of things, and we seem to get our average rainfall every year, and as well we get record numbers for the grain that we produce. So yeah, it just seems to get a constant flow of good luck. Growing up here was awesome in a way that it's a close, tight-knit community. You can roll into a Friday afternoon and don't have any plans for the weekend, and you run into old mate at the IGA and he hits you up and he invites you along to a barbie or a bonfire, and that's your weekend sorted after that. So it's a bit more laid back.
I'm Steve Willis. I'm one of the owners of Epic Grain Brokers. I have got the privilege of working right across Eyre Peninsula in all the districts, and I generally see firsthand exactly how things are going, because in my business I drive up driveways and literally see people on their own patch and get the raw feeling of what's going on, and having been through a really tough time myself, I really can spot trouble brewing, and when the districts are doing it tough, I know that, right, we've got to do something about it. I just needed an organisation to work with to maybe get some extra support out there in the agricultural space. With 17, 18 and 19 droughts, I wanted to do something early and try and make a difference early in the piece. Partnering up with Mentally Fit EP was one of the most amazing things I could have done.
Mentally Fit EP was created in about 2014. My partner at the time, Kirsty Traeger, she had just come out of her own form of lived experience with battling with depression and anxiety, realised that there isn't any supports in the rural, remote areas like you experience in the city. So that kind of put a bee in her bonnet, and she wanted to make that change, wanted to break down the stigmas, and no one had had the balls to actually broach a conversation like that. And I think that's where Kirsty really stood out. She had the guts behind her, had the determination to make the difference, and she approached Joe Clark from West Coast Youth. They were actually going to drive something that would be a community movement in actually improving the mental well-being for the Eyre Peninsula.
My name is Lane Montgomery, and I'm a Community Development Officer for Mentally Fit EP. I'm one of the 2 paid staff members that run the project, which means doing lots of little things like checking emails, doing social media, organising events, courses, food, permits, and lots of other little variables. Joe Clark, who's the CEO of West Coast Youth and Community Support in Port Lincoln, suggested that the project sit within their organisation. So that meant that they could auspice the project, and it also meant we could apply for grants, would have help with insurances and policies and all that other admin that, a fresh group don't know much about. And what that also meant was our project, which turned into a program, didn't need to be incorporated. We're really lucky to have a committee of volunteers from an array of backgrounds from across the Eyre Peninsula who keep us going. We meet every 2 to 3 months for 2 hours, and lots of emails and text messages back and forth. Rotary have backed us from the very beginning, and the amount of snags they would have cooked over the last 6 years would just be insane. One of the first things that Mentally Fit EP did was hold some community forums. One was in Port Lincoln, another in Cummins, another in Tumby Bay. And it was a moment to get the community together and talk about what was on their mind. And so what that did was gave opportunity to listen to what the community needed. And it was once we had those ideas, we were able to devise plans with those communities. Unfortunately, we're not funded. I think that would probably be our biggest challenge. So we budget like crazy, but sometimes there's just those unknowns. Luckily, we are also heavily supported by our community banks in Cummins and Port Lincoln. Grants are our bread and butter, basically. We've been really lucky to receive grants and support from the likes of Country Arts SA, Wellbeing SA, Country SA PHN, and also National Farmers Federation. You know, it's just amazing. If you look for those things, that is what keeps you going.
The drought, wind was blowing, people weren't leaving their homes, mental health was deteriorating. They've just spent the most money they ever have growing this year's crop. The money's not in the bank and the family pressures are still there.
You could hear the wind blowing at the window, and you knew if you woke up and looked out the back door and couldn't see the chook house, well, it was going to be another one of those days. In 2018, we didn't even pull the header out of the shed, so we didn't harvest the grain. We had to go and find seed, we had to go and buy hay. So yeah, I've never seen that before. And the last time Dad bought feed was 1977. So from 77 to 2018, we've always grown our own feed. We've always barred our own hay. We've never outsourced. So we had to find that feed for them because there was nothing on the ground. So the mood in the community, it was pretty dark and glim there for a bit.
The Mentally Fit EP organisation that had started in Cummins was already on the ground. They already had systems and bank accounts, and they were up and running, and they were open to listening about where we could go to with some ideas. And we set out trying to keep farmers farming to start with. In the drought, you got to sell all your livestock. That's the first thing. So our initiative was to come out and set up a hay charity. Partnering up with them, we got the Epic Charitable Trust off the ground. That then got us the funds. Once we went past the initial raising money for the hay, we set about doing some community events, and we had a show and shine, we had a fun run. Sam Kekovich, the landman, come out, and we had bouncy castles for the kids. We had kids functions, and that was driven purely by the Mentally Fit EP side and brought together communities. And yeah, it was just super rewarding how they pulled together their side of things. Like, yes, I get to see the grower, yes, I get to understand how bad it is out there and get to listen to them, but having someone that I can leverage off and get to do a lot of work was just so powerful and so important.
A really great thing is that we've got a really good network of supporters, especially male guest speakers. We can take them into communities to talk to farmers and blokes when needed. And also we offer a course called Take Charge of Your Life, and it's based on William Glass's choice theory. So choice theory is very much about what is in our own control and sort of letting go those things that we can let go, and especially with something like farming where, you know, choices can be a real balance as well. So, you know, creating those tools that you can utilize to keep your mental health well in times when it is out of your control.
So we were able to achieve, I think it was about 7,000 bales of straw was donated to about 90 farming families, and every one of those families got a road train each in that period of time. And it was not just about the hay and the livestock, it was about the communication and the freight and someone checking in on somebody else.
With the idea of baling straw from farmers down south that actually had crops that were less affected by the drought. I got a job driving the hay baler to bale the straw. In turn, gave Dad a job to cart the straw. So yeah, that provided some extra income as such, but it also gave us an outlet off the farm to not sit at home and think about farming all the time. So it gave us a positive outlook to get away and meet different people, whether they be in the same boat as what we were, or whether it was helping other people, but also it was just getting out and talking to different people.
I mean, they were coming and saying g'day to you too and mixing up, see how you was getting on, and then Willow would turn up and see that everything was going right. No, he was a good bloke to have on hand.
It was a big battle for Kirsty to open up about how she was feeling to start off with, and it was quite difficult to watch someone you loved and cared about for 12 years go through those emotions, and those anxieties were the result of her taking her own life. No one wants to die, they just want the way that they're feeling to end, and there's always going to be a fight ahead. There's always going to be someone new that hasn't experienced these feelings before that will go through a tough patch in their life.
Mental health wasn't talked about when we were a kid. It affects all of us. Everyone's been touched. Everywhere I go, there is next to no one that has not been affected. It is such a big problem. Why do we always have to wait until something's nearly broken before we put a hand up to help someone? We can't leave this up just to the health system. They can do their bit, but they need people on the ground like Mentally Fit EP.
To quote Kirsty, look after yourself and those around you, and mental health is everyone's business.
It's okay to say, I need help. I want them to feel confident that they can reach out to people and say, look, hi, I'm not coping. My big dream is when they do that stigma is gone and they don't have to feel ashamed, because there's no shame in mental illness.